We are Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by our good friends at Bearded Iris. We're here to preview Alabama's NCAA tournament basketball game with San Diego State. That takes place in Louisville, 5:30 Central on Friday night. You can catch that on TBS. The predictive computers have Alabama as a 6.9-point favorite. If you average Ken Pomeroy, Bart Torvik, ESPN's BPI, and Jeff Sager, but boy, they are big ranges within that. Bart Torvik has the Tide as a 3.6-point favorite. ESPN's BPI has Alabama a 10.8-point favorite. The victory probability for Alabama, 73% between three of those four computers. Sagrum does not handicap that. Anyway, Blake, the number one seed in the tournament has played pretty well so far. Brandon Miller scoreless in the opening round. Comes back in a nice way in Alabama's blowout of Maryland. The Crimson Tide have been so consistent all year, playing well at the right time. San Diego State, a team that is used to being into the tournament, defends very well, shoots fairly efficiently. This is an intriguing matchup for the Crimson Tide, but I think one that Alabama can handle.
I think so. I think I've seen some interesting opinions on this game from people thinking that Alabama is just miles better than San Diego State, and at their best, Alabama can blow anybody out. I always say that. I think they're just that good. But I would not underestimate the San Diego State team because I was not high on the Mountain West, as you are well aware, Chris. Um, but I'm high on this San Diego State team, and I think it's because of it's all about matchups. Like everything's about matchups in the NCAA tournament, and I think San Diego State on paper is a team that can match up pretty well with Alabama. Because what do? They are just they know how to defend. Um, so I like teams that do that. I mean, think about this. The last time they allowed, oh man, conference tournament, Colorado State 61 points, San Jose State 49 points, Utah State 57 points, Charleston 57 points, Furman 52 points. Now, are those teams Alabama offensively? No, but I think that's just the principle of how they play defense. And if you watch them play, Chris, I know you love Ken Palm, as we all do. Um, the one stat that stands out is the defense, not just the adjusted defensive efficiency, but how long does it take? What are they doing to opponents, Chris, on the defensive side in terms of the
Grinding them
possession
out.
length? They're making them earn it, and I think that's what this is going to come down to. Is you've got a team that like San Diego State that's going to make you grind, and I think it makes for a lot more interesting matchup because this is an experienced team. You look at I know there will be people say, well, they've only got one guy that scores in double figures, but they've got about what 7 or 8 guys that can all contribute. And I think Alabama, as we talk about the depth, but I'm not setting this up for some grand reveal later about my pick or anything, but I'm just saying I think this is one that San Diego State is the type of team I feel like matchup wise matches up better with Alabama than a lot of the teams maybe even left in this tournament. So,
Yes and no. And I want to hit both sides in a few minutes. By the way, just to put a number on that, grind you out. Defensively, teams take 18.5 seconds per possession. That's 346 nationally, according to Ken Palm. Before we get into some of the intricacies of the matchup, I want to talk about Alabama a minute, Blake. This is a team that is very deep, and depth can mean two things, right? It can mean the guys that you actually use. It can also mean just having spare parts around that you may not use, but can use if you need them. For example, Dominic Welch, who played, I think, 38 and a half minutes a game at St. Bonaventure last year, barely playing for the Crimson Tide this year. In fact, he didn't even get in the Maryland game, I don't think. But Alabama has shortened the bench a little bit. It had, what was it? 8 guys play 10 minutes or more against Maryland. 2 of those guys, Noah Gurley and Namari Burnett, played 10 and 11 minutes respectively. The big thing with Alabama, not only did it get Miller back, he got 19 points. He's had a groin injury that we were concerned about, again, held scoreless in the opening round win for the Crimson Tide. But you've seen Javon Quinterly break into the starting lineup since the SEC tournament. He started the last 5 games. He had not started, I think, a single game before that. He was the Ken Palm MVP in that last game, got 22 points. And I don't know that you can argue that Alabama is playing better with Quinterly as a starter, but I guess Nate Oates would argue that, or else he wouldn't have made the choice.
I mean, Alabama's Alabama. It's Quinterly, like I said, it can be Quinterly during a stretch of 5, 6, 7 games. It can be someone else during a stretch of, it can be Sears. That's maybe, it's just, that's why they're as good as they are, is because they've got multiple guys who throughout a, 3-game stretch, 5-game stretch, 7-game stretch can all of a sudden look like the best player on the team. And that's just how talented they are. And yeah, so I mean, I think that's it, is like I said, if you're trying to craft the ultimate plan for San Diego State, it's all going to be on the defensive end. The problem becomes, how often have teams been able to do that, is just win with their defense against Alabama. Oklahoma had to beat Alabama how, Chris? Just a stellar shooting performance. Gonzaga had to put up 100 to beat Alabama. UConn did a little both early in the season, 82-67 in that game. We remember the physicality on defense gave Alabama some problems, but UConn was also able to score some points. Tennessee A&M games, maybe a little different. They were more grinded out type, ways of playing. Alabama scored 59 and 61 points respectively in those 2 games. So I think that's, I know you like going at it just from this team and then the next team, but like if we tie it all together, for me, it's yes, like Alabama offensively can certainly overwhelm even a good San Diego State team defensively. Like I think that's just Alabama. Like that's what they do. And so to me, the bigger question is going to be, San Diego State is going to have to make it a Tennessee, Texas A&M type game, because I do wonder offensively, will they have the firepower to be able to sort of keep up with Alabama if their defense is not just flawless, which it's hard to be completely flawless against Alabama no matter what you're doing. So,
okay, I'm going to give you the take on San Diego State and where I think it could really push Alabama, and then where I think Alabama could separate. Okay, we talk about things in NCAA tournaments that win games. It's having a lot of guys that can shoot threes and shoot them efficiently. Matt Bradley, 37%. Darian Trammell, 31%. Not a great percentage, but he hit 44 of them, so he's a threat that you have to guard. Lamont Butler, 32%. Micah Parrish, 38%. And Adam Seiko off the bench hit 46%. Free throws, they hit 73% as a team. Not great, but not awful. And you look at their top 5 guys in minutes played, they all hit 74 to 80%. So the guys that are probably going to have the ball in their hands may not be guys you want to foul. Rebounding, San Diego State out rebounded teams by about 5 boards a game. Now, what I worry about with San Diego State, and this was the case for pretty much anybody, what was it we said about Alabama's defense, Blake, that gave people trouble all year, just when you watched them play?
well, yeah, I mean, it's trying to score against them in the half court, but their size, their length, their just ability to get their hand on a ball somewhere, because they're just long and athletic. Yeah.
Yeah, the length was the one I was getting at. You read my mind pretty well there. And San Diego State, average Ken Palm height, 241. Now, it's not like this team is short across the board, but again, that's what I worry about, is shots are just harder to get off the way Alabama defends and how much length it can put on the floor. And that is where I think Alabama separates in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right about that. I think though A&M was kind of one of those teams that, it's not a huge team size wise, but yet, we're able to kind of dictate some things. But I think San Diego State's path to victory is very simple. It's to essentially play the way Tennessee plays. And that's not easy for teams to do, but if you just look at the defensive numbers, they guard, they guard the perimeter very well. I don't think San Diego State's afraid to be physical defensively, but it's like, what have we said too? If you're going to frustrate Alabama, how do you do it, Chris? Tennessee and A&M
Forced
are good at,
turnovers and bad 3-point shots.
well, it's just forcing a lot of those shots, but it's also, I think, just being very, very physical. And I know that's been a theme in all these games, but think about who's winning out in this tournament. Think about the physicality of some of these teams. And I think that's where San Diego State's going to have to kind of make this that type of game, is they're going to have to just, you know, it's trying to put pressure, knowing you do have some depth. Um, so I think this is, again, I know there are going to be some Alabama fans that think I'm just, if you watched our channel the entire season, I think you should understand that I've said I think Alabama's the best team in the country. I've been saying this for over 2 months now. All I'm saying is, I think if you're trying to craft a team that has some elements, not every element you need, because I don't know if there is a team that has every single element you need to counter what Alabama can do, but I think San Diego State has some of those elements. The problem, as I keep saying, is can that equate to what you're going to see with an Alabama? Because of what you just said, the length that you're going to see with this team. And if San Diego State, which is not a team that runs up and down the floor and gets a lot of that kind of offense, right? It's more of a, a lower scoring type game. Remember the debate we had in the Alabama, Maryland game. We talked about Ken Pomeroy's kind of comment on that, and you kind of have to pick your battle with Alabama. Are you really going to try to score against them on the half court? Because if you do, there's all the, just think about the challenges that you have to do that. Or you can try to get up and down the floor and just find the first best available shot. So I do think it's going to be a challenge for San Diego State. I'm picking Alabama. Like I said, I wasn't setting up for a grand reveal here, but I don't think you should just completely overlook San Diego State's ability in this kind of matchup, because I just think they're the type of defensive team that can make this interesting. But no matter how good you are on that side of the floor, I still think Alabama's going to get some points. And, I feel like overall, I mean, it's just we're still talking about the number one overall seed in this tournament. And I'm not ready to pick against that team just yet. They were my national championship pick. And I just think with Alabama, yes, we said I don't think it's not all about 3-point shooting the way that some people kind of angle it. They can score in many other ways. And I think when you look at that, San Diego State defends the three well, but Alabama has proven they can score in other ways. And they've got so many options. And so I think it's just a better matchup on paper than some people may think. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, you mentioned some things about fouls. I looked some things up. San Diego State is number 330 in the country in 2-foul participation. I guess that could mean a few things. That could mean that either when they get a guy with 2 fouls, he comes off the floor, or they just don't foul a lot. Check the free throws, and San Diego State has attempted 113 more than its opponents. It has been disqualified 8 times through fouls. 3 of those have been Nathan Mensah, who's their biggest guy at 6'10". So just some notes to keep in mind there. Blake, I'm going Alabama in this one. I had Alabama to win the national title in my bracket before the tournament started. Have not really seen a lot to push me off that yet. The Miller injury, if the groin thing pops up, that is obviously a concern, and those can reoccur. But I had Alabama before the tournament. I'm taking the Crimson Tide in this game.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm the same. I haven't seen anything, period, to change that opinion. Just based on the first 2 games Alabama's played, but yeah, I think it's at least stylistically, this is one to look at, because I think if Alabama plays the way they want to play, it's going to be hard, I think, for San Diego State. But I do think there are some things, perhaps defensively, San Diego State can do to try to make this if San Diego State wins this one, Chris, I think you would agree. It has to be one in the 60s. Like, it's not, I just think that's the, low 60 type game, make this a grind. But like we said, that's a double-edged sword, because if you try to just make this entirely a half-court game, we just talked about, if you try to do that against Alabama and you just let them set up defensively with Charles Bediako in the middle and fast guards with quick hands and Noah Clowney and, Burnett, like, it's just, man, they're just hard to score against. So it will be, yeah, if San Diego State's going to pull this off, it will take their best game of the season, but that's what you expect going against the number 1 overall seed. And if you want to look at some of the opponents for San Diego State this season, Arizona, Arkansas, St. Mary's, they lost all 3 of those games. Back in non-conference play, lost to, remember, Arkansas and the Maui in overtime, lost St. Mary's by 7, Arizona by 17. So they played a strong schedule, but I think a lot of that's based on, Mountain West. Computers like the Mountain West.
No,
don't know if the
love
results.
the Mountain West.
Don't know if the results have loved the Mountain West as much, but I do think I don't want to necessarily just group San Diego State in that group because I do think they are pretty good. But yeah, how can I pick against Alabama right now? I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Most of the computers had San Diego State as a top 15-ish type national team. And look, this is a team that gets to the tournament every year and wins a game most years, I think. So no disrespect to San Diego State, but I just think Alabama's on a different level. 2 things you mentioned about the score getting up there. San Diego State won its average game 72-63 this year. So that's the kind of game that the Aztecs were generally winning. And number 2, and this is a little bit overrated because San Diego State had a lot of scoring balance, could get points from a lot of places. But Matt Bradley, the only guy on the team that averaged double figures, he averaged 13 points a game. So sometimes in a tournament where one guy can sort of carry you, this was not the team that generally did that, or maybe a better way to say it would be needed to do that. But in any case, it is what it is. Any parting thoughts on Alabama and San Diego State, Blake?
No, I think, like I said, it's going to take San Diego State's best game. Can they do it? Possibly. But like I said, you haven't seen a team like Alabama, right? They haven't seen a team like Alabama, especially in Mountain West play. And even when you go back to some of those games early in the season, it's just the way Alabama's playing right now. It's just, you've just not seen a team like them. And so I think just having that other guy step up beyond Bradley is going to be essential in this game. But they can do it. We've seen it before. So I'm trying just to, we don't got Alabama fans that watch this. I'm trying just to keep them, not getting too overly, you know what I like to do, Chris? I like to sort of set everybody up where you go in
like
with
the sandbag.
Well, I like to let everybody go in a little nervous, and then that way, you can celebrate afterwards. But no, I just think Brian Dutcher's a good coach, and I think he'll have his team ready. But it's just Alabama's Alabama. Like they're so freaking good. So yeah.
I mean, what did Alabama win its average SEC game by this year? It was double digits, was it not?
I don't remember. Yeah, I mean they haven't lost. I mean, the last 5, every tournament game they played, the 5 tournament games they played so far, they've won every one of them by double digits. So, not bad.
Remind you of anybody?
I don't know who you're going towards on that, but
do you remember? I think it was Billy Donovan's first national title team, the Joakim Noah bunch. I believe that was a little different. I think that was like a 3 seed that kind of got hot, whereas Alabama just sort of had its foot on the gas all year. But that team, I believe, won every SEC tournament game and every NCAA tournament game by double digits. So just when you said that similarity popped up. You may need to check my math on that, but when you said that, it sort of brought back that memory.
Yeah, well, they're good enough to do it. They're good enough to win this game by double digits too. I just, I would fully expect San Diego State to throw some things at them defensively. It's just, can they score enough against this Alabama defense, which has been the strength of this team? That could be a tougher question to answer. So,
all right, we will be previewing every single game in the NCAA tournament involving SEC teams. We'll also be wrapping up those games on our channel. Best way to get that, hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing. It's just a follow. Also hit the like button if you liked our videos. That helps our analytics a little bit. We'll be bringing you plenty more basketball content and some baseball content. We're slowly starting to roll that in as we can follow it, which is a lot to follow this time of year between those 2 sports. Anyway, he is Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again.